Let's now go live with Ian Rollins and Earl Mason.
And good afternoon and welcome to this special edition of Inside Sports Talk Radio live here from the August Group in Hamilton. I'm Ian Rollins along with my colleague, Mr. Earl Basden. Good afternoon, Earl.
Good afternoon, Ian. How are you?
Good. It feels a little different, but comfortable at the same time. It feels good.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Being in a different location opens you up to a different view of life in sports.
It does. Yeah. I want to thank August for allowing us to come down and do the broadcast here. Again, we're here at the August Group in Hamilton. We'll be here today from 12:15 to 2 p.m. having our guests come and join us live from August. And, of course, we'll be speaking with August as we do a health and fitness segment today with Shakir and Dave Wolf. They'll be coming on at about 1:15 this afternoon. How was your weekend?
Steady, yeah.
Not overburdened.
No.
Pacing yourself well.
Those days are over.
They're over.
Those days are over.
Okay.
Just making sure I get a little bit of everything, but not in a rush where I'm if I feel I can't make it,
Right.
then I have to miss it.
Right.
Where before that was not a concern.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, yeah, it was steady.
Okay.
Steady. But a good one. You got to see at the track, the National Sports Center. We had two people meet the qualifying standard for Carifta.
Okay.
You had Special Olympians taking part in the track meet. Just to see them take part again for those people that were there. It's always a good thing when and especially when they hear you supporting them, they're even more excited. Went to the harness track on Saturday afternoon. Got to see John Simmons. He's another person with special needs, actually driving a cart. He was with Kaiwan Waldron, and just to see his face as the cart's going around in an exhibition race and leading and actually winning,
Right.
It for everyone, I guess, around the track, it's a feel good story because there's a way to allow someone to be a part of an event that they really want to take part in, and the fact that they do it in a racing form, which is a brilliant thing. We had the National Stadium basically on Saturday was the place to be because you had the track meet, we had Ian swimming. Had to let that out of the bag. And of course the national rugby team took on a visiting college, Princeton College, and came out successful. I think it was a good test for the national team, although the score was a bit high. But I think the fact that they get to play against different talent, different, gives it a different look. And I know we'll talk with our first guest in a few minutes about when, constantly people compete locally, and then the minute you get to an overseas event, it's a little different because it's that unknown factor.
Sure.
You know what I mean? You know what your comfort zone is here when you're competing, but it's when you meet people that are not the norm for you, and how you approach it, how you address it, and also keep those nerves in check. So that's going to be a big thing for, especially 2019, because we have 2019 is a big year. 2020 is an even bigger year because of the Olympic year. Yeah.
Well, just joining us, I would say in studio, but you say this around.
Well, this could be the studio.
This could be the studio.
Forever and ever. Sorry, Don.
Joining us right now is the president of the Bermuda Bicycle Association, Mr. Peter Dunn, who's no stranger. The season has just got underway. He's got some good things he'd like to share with us for 2019. Good afternoon to you, Peter, and how are you?
I'm fine, thanks, Ian and Earl. Thanks for having me. I had a beard as luxurious as yours 2 days ago, but
smart man, cut it off. Smart man.
In pursuit of trying to appearing younger.
Well, you're in good shape. You're always in good shape, mate.
Working at it. But no, it was interesting. Earl's comment about preparation for international competition when we're preparing locally, but we're going to compete against people overseas who we don't know. And I think in a lot of sports, if you're playing in a local league, it's local players, whether the sport's football or cycling or rugby. And what a lot of times we know exactly what happens. If I'm in one of our races and certain person does something, I know pretty much how fit they are and how they're going to react to that. And do they have the endurance to, stay through their effort and such? And then you get to, you go overseas to a competition and you get on the start line and you know nobody, or maybe you know two people.
Right.
And these are the opportunities. So when the opportunities to increase our exposure to international competition, almost regardless of the outcome, because it's, we miss the intellectual component of training ourselves for competition here. We don't have the randomness or the breadth of the field, and it's something that when teams or other competitors come here, whether it's on vacation or as part of a training program, it can really make a big boost. And of course, it's expensive for us to be shipping teams out. To
I know the recent mountain bike race had a visitor from Canada down.
Yeah.
No one knew what to expect from this guy, and of course, you're used to Peter making a dash early, but I know I can let Peter go because I'm used to Peter. But
everyone should let me go. Just once.
But then you have this unknown in the race, and all of a sudden tactics change because this person's a little stronger than the chasing pack. Yeah. So do you go with him, or do you, you know what I mean? So those type of things are treats when you get people down. Yeah. Whether they just be visiting or purposely coming down for an event. I think it bodes well for the local competitors because now you get to test yourself against just that, the unknown.
Absolutely. And I wish there was we had greater frequency of that, but we know we don't. And I do think that if you lived in raced cycles in Boston, you would see the same people frequently, week in, week out. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. But because of our size and the access we have to international competition, that's beyond what many people say in the States or otherwise. We need to have those kind of shocker events, where you go and nobody on the line, and here who the sprinter is and who the climber is and such. And I'm sure in football people understand their technique much better, and what the opposition is going to do, and that guy has this amazing sprint down the left side of the field and is going to be open. We need to create more of those opportunities. So it's so it's good. We got a big season, as Earl says. We're in the middle of mountain biking right now, which is just doing well. It's always a fun group, and I was out with a couple other people yesterday afternoon in Ferry Reach. We're opening up a new trail, working with the Parks Department, to create more access. We need more people, maybe part of Argus Wellness program, out walking these trails because it helps keep them open as well for us. I mean, we spent several hours, with machetes and hedge trimmers and things clearing trails. But in Bermuda, it's a day like today, those plants are ready to grow back. They're working,
especially after a weekend of rain.
Absolutely. So. I'd love to see more people out in those parks, but we have guys who are organizing the mountain biking and volunteering their time to go out and clear trails. And Ferry Reach is an amazing part of Bermuda. There are corners that so many people haven't been through, and this trail that we've been working on winds its way up to the very top part. There is a trail going up there, and we've made another one, but it's I don't know. I think it's really cool. I love digging around in the forest. And, it's a wonderful way of seeing some parts of Bermuda that we live in so much concrete and asphalt.
You guys had created a schedule some years ago that brought a lot of interest to the sport. We've seen that what I would consider stagnant as far as numbers coming in. What do you think you need to do to encourage a new batch of people to come and join the group that's already frequent?
Yeah, that's a good question, and one that we're constantly thinking about and trying to work on. I think when people say, "Oh, numbers are," we have less racing this year than last year, and I would say, well, if you look at the number of people we have for our population, and you lay that same percentage on anywhere else in the world,
the number side,
we are off the charts.
Right. Wow.
And there was I know it's radio, but big race in
Right.
British Virgin Islands in Tortola over the weekend. Young guy who I know won it. He's from St. Vincent, and it was billed as this really big event. There were 8 guys in it. The third place guy was older than I am, you know,
Wow.
and
Dang.
that was successful.
Right.
And I saw a little bit of video from it. Just lost your connection, maybe.
No.
Okay. But I saw part of some video from it, and it looked like an easy Bermuda race, you know. And I think that you know, so I'm not so fussed that we're doing things wrong. You always have surges and
Right.
sometimes you have a bit of ebb in
Right.
interest. But this year we're working on a project right now to create a series of events for youth. So junior and youth cycle, focusing on youth. So middle school and primary school. You may recall that a number of years ago we would have one event a year. It was sponsored by IBC. It was the IBC Front Street Race.
Yeah.
And we would have several hundred young kids come out and participate for just a one-off event. It was, you know, that if you were 5 years old, you dash from one end of Front Street to the other, and that was it. And then as they got older, the event gets a little bit longer. But we found that brought out a lot of people into the sport who don't, because we don't have a natural outlet outside of our BBA events.
Right.
So what we're working on now, and there's a group of folks putting that together with a sponsor. We're going to run, I think it's going to be 5 events that'll run through the spring, through the end of, say, the school year. So our road season will start in March, which is just around the corner. But we're going to create this series for these young people, and it'll be age group, or you know, there'll be bands for ages, and then one of the components will be they will race representing their school.
Okay.
So that it takes, you know, at younger ages, there's always going to be a superstar. That person will always win, regardless of you know who else is in the race, because they are just, you know, sometimes kids. Well, there's always some child who you know matures a little earlier. But we thought that by creating a program linked to school, that at the end of the series, the school would get trophy.
Right.
So they're working on the details of that. But it's something that we're going to promote a little more effectively. We haven't been great about promoting our own activities. By nature, road racing, people don't want us on the road.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of less than happy drivers out there.
Yeah.
You know, an incident the other day, somebody yelled, "This isn't a Sunday and this isn't a triathlon." I'm like, no, thank you, because I thought my clock was wrong. But it was, you know, so that we get kind of shunted to the corners of the day, which means that, you know, racing happens really early. Which for years, when I first got involved, we only raced at Southside.
Right.
When Southside was still property of the U.S. Navy, and so it was out of sight, out of mind. So by coming a little more into the public eye, we've tried to make ourselves more obvious. We think that we run events that are happy and safe and, you know, welcoming to anyone who wants to come in. We don't charge juniors to participate in any of our events.
Right.
I know a bicycle can be expensive, but those who are in the high school program that I run, we provide them with bikes if they need them. We have donated bikes. So we've eliminated most of the financial barriers to interest, so that anyone who really wants to compete or participate in cycling can do so without that, oh, I have to go out and buy it. I mean, there are people out there spending north of $12,000 for a push pedal bike, as they would say.
$12,000.
Oh, and you could spend like north of that. You go into the shops and with a big credit card.
It needs an engine on it, mate. If you're going to spend that money.
That's what I'm
well, there are some that have motors in it, but that's not my realm. So this is something that we're doing, and we have a former junior cyclist, since she's now, you know, she's probably around Ian's daughter's age, who's offered to help us with some social media marketing stuff and promotion. You know, we think that we can increase the visibility of our activities through some of these other outlets that rather than sort of, you know, if we go and have a race, everybody has a great time, mostly. They really love it.
Right.
But it doesn't go any further than that.
Mm.
Like dropping a rock in a fish tank as opposed to dropping a rock in an ocean. The ripples go much further in the ocean.
Right. Years ago, you used to have racing on a Tuesday evening up at the annex.
Right.
Yeah.
Finding another.
Bay,
Well, you can still use it. Not many people choose it, but anyway, that's a different subject. But I think when you guys were doing that, it was encouraging a lot of people because some were using it as a fun ride, others were using it. It weren't the Sunday rush racing. Any thoughts of possibly trying to find another location that could possibly, because that sort of encourage people to come out and try it.
Well, of course. I was going to say, are you familiar with Bermuda? It's a pretty small place.
Yes.
There are a few places that we've looked at, and we may try to bring that back. I mean, when that series started, I was using that. I think those are Tuesday nights. We use those for like youth training.
Yes.
The group that I run is every Tuesday and every Thursday evening. So it was just an easy alternate location and structure, and gave them that race experience. We've looked at it. There are things that we would like to do. Locations are not, this type of training or those type of events in the States or in Europe would happen in a car park or an industrial park, because after 5:30 it's empty, right? But we don't have that type of sort of structures in Bermuda.
Right.
And then being central is a big thing for us because when we had them out in Southampton on the edge of Southampton Sands, we would it was a struggle to get people there early enough if you were leaving town, and then if we look into the East End, South Side properties in general, or in that property there are a number of locations, but we also have to worry about the interface with the public. And one of the things we're working on, and really this junior series is a product of, is that we think that we need to have more closed course events or activities, especially for younger people. We were having road races. You would have seen, Earl, that in prior years on an open road race, which would be a larger circuit, maybe 9 miles or something, we would potentially have 10-year-olds racing, but at their pace, unescorted, unprotected, and we feel that was, with increased road traffic, was going to be a recipe for something unpleasant. So we're trying to work through those things, but again, finding people who want to, we have to find the location, and there's a lot of, sure, we'd love to go back to the Morgan's Point property, and the road surfaces are probably a lot better now. It's some pretty wild crashes out there where the road surface was just kind of crumbly. But we like to we're working on those things, but again, we're trying to start with the things that we know. We're trying to clean up some of the racing calendar. We're going to have a similar calendar this year as we have in the past. This is in terms of local racing, but that will we'll try to modify the formats a little bit. And again, we're, for the most part, for the 5 or so road races that we have, open road races, we're actually not going to have any youth category. Youth categories. That sounds like a negative, but it's actually a positive because we're in these other events. We're going to be able to focus on a wider audience. There's a perception that you have to have, if you want to go to a bike race, you have to have a racing bike and all the kit and everything. So with this other structure, I think the inclinations to have like lower primary, upper primary, and then a middle school category. And so if someone wants to come out and give it a whirl on their mountain bike or their BMX, that's great. If they love it, they'll come back and they'll develop into that. And again, we want to do it with no cost. So we're not going to charge entry fees and such.
I have to interject. We've got to take a commercial break.
Okay, sorry.
Right. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about cycling and regarding the international scene, what's in store for 2019.
Yep.
So let's take a commercial break, and we'll be back after this.
Inside Sports Talk Radio has been presented to you. Sports Talk Radio. Inside Sports Talk Radio on Power 95 FM with host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Beeston.
And welcome back to Inside Sports Talk Radio. As we said, we're live today from the Argus Group in Hamilton. It's a nice location. I think we'd like to come back here more often. What do you think, Earl?
I don't know if they want us back. We'll have to ask.
We'll have to ask.
You got snacks.
Some little bars, healthy, and some good water. Guest again in studio at Argus is Mr. Peter Dunn, the president of the Bermuda Bicycle Association. He's just given us a calendar of events, what's happening, and the programs in the past, and what's going to be in store for the future. I just want to touch more on the international side. What's in store for 2019 for your team?
Well, we've got, it's actually a very busy year. Not necessarily looking because 2020 is an Olympic year,
Correct.
Clearly, but we have, this summer is the Pan Am Games, which will be in Lima, Peru, and we have one female cyclist who's qualified for that. So Caitlin Conyers has qualified a spot for, and she will be our athlete, barring some inability to compete. We are, of course, trying to wriggle our way to see if we can get additional spots from that, and that's all that really unsightly behind-the-scenes political stuff. But we have some, so that our focus, we want to make sure that Caitlin has the opportunities, and we were talking before the program started about how, at the earlier part, about giving those opportunities to race internationally, so that when we get to those big games, those big competitions, that our athletes are mentally prepared for it, and they don't panic on the start line because why is everybody doing one thing? So
Right.
Things that are random and new have to be approached as if they're normal. And that's sort of the mentality that we have to get in to get our athletes. And we do that partially through communication and then partially in an experiential way. So there's an initiative in the Caribbean, a gentleman who's the president of the Caribbean Cycling Federation, and some people, including myself, have been talking about trying to create opportunities for our athletes in our region to race together, because typically we don't. So there are races internationally that we could send a national team to, but we don't have the depth. We need to have 5 women or 8 men who are capable of that at that level. And of course, they're very expensive to participate in. So we've been trying to figure out how we might be able to do some pan-Caribbean. I always look back at like the Windies, like West Indies cricket. Nobody's saying, that Grenada has to be, fielding the team.
Right.
But if they have a player, on that team, then that's a big deal.
Right.
So we have a project this year, and actually on Friday I'm going to Dominican Republic with Dominique Mayo. He's going to be part of a composite team racing in the Vuelta de Independencia in Dominican Republic. It's 7 days of racing. It's a stage race. So he's going to be racing alongside other athletes that we know, and they're young guys. A guy from Trinidad who's very friendly with our association. We've traveled with him before. Young guy from Barbados, a guy from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, a young Puerto Rican guy who came second in the Junior Caribbean this past year here, and then a man from Cuba. So they'll make up a composite team in this race. So that's an exciting development for us, because it's given us, long after we would have liked to have seen this happen, an opportunity for our athletes to race at this higher level. And it's being funded by Pan American Sports. So it's it's beneficial, and for me it's interesting to go and be managing athletes who aren't the ones that I've always known. So it'll be interesting. And then there's a parallel program for the women, and the plan right now is that Caitlin and Zonique Williams, and then some 2 sisters from Trinidad. I'm not too sure where the other riders, I think one from Guatemala possibly, would compete in the Women's Tour of Guatemala, which is in early June. So these are opportunities to build for Caitlin, to give her a chance to see competition, to do it with a colleague, which is a good thing. And then we're working on taking probably Caitlin and Zonique and I think Nicole Mitchell to go to the Pan American Road Race Championships. So
Right.
there's a Pan American Cycling has a championships every year, and that's in Mexico this year. And I think it's an appropriate time. We need to give Caitlin the opportunity, as well as our other athletes, to be there and supportive.
Right.
To go to that level of events, because when she goes to Lima in the summertime, that's going to be just craziness. I mean,
Right.
it is so hard. We're talking about the top American and Canadians, the
Yes.
top Mexicans and Argentinians and Colombians and people who are. There's a Cuban woman who's riding for one of the top pro teams in the world and winning, who will be at Pan Am Games, and so like, wow, racing against World Tour, is a really big deal. It's like just going to your local track meet and Usain Bolt rocks up. You're like, yeah.
One thing I noticed, especially seeing Dominique compete in Scotland and Canada, and then seeing Nicole in Colombia.
Right.
It's very difficult. I don't know if you can understand it, but it's very difficult for a single person to race against units of teams who have different. You look at what Dominique was able to do in Scotland, finish as the top Caribbean cyclist. Nicole finished.
Oh, thanks for remembering that was a huge accomplishment on his part.
Very huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't see that as but it's big.
Nicole finished in the top 20 in Colombia. Yeah. As a single rider, finishing as remarkable as it is, if we can get two other people on these teams, it just makes it that much more. I wouldn't say easier, but it makes the challenge that much easier.
Well, you feel you're in. So in Colombia, where I got to go with, I went with Nicole, and I'm watching from the support vehicle,
right?
And Nicole and I had discussed it obviously before the race, like what things might unfold, etc. And there were some very strong teams there. So if there's so we said, look, if there's a break that goes off the front, that's a hard acceleration by a couple people. That would be if there's a Colombian and a Venezuelan and Mexican in the mix, then we need to be there.
Right.
And when I say we need to be there, that means Nicole has to be there. Like I have to sit in the car, she has to bury herself to get there.
Yeah. Wow.
And these breakaways are forming and getting folded back into the main peloton with great frequency. And as an individual rider, you basically have to, by luck of the draw, pick which one you're going to get in. And Nicole got into a great break with riders who were, who really were the right ones, except the rest of the peloton realized that they didn't want those people to get away because they were too much of a threat. So, and by then you'd spend a huge amount of effort. So it is a challenge of those things. For those big games, it's difficult because we only qualify one person at a time. We don't qualify a team.
Yeah.
Right.
So even though it's great to have the opportunity to go to CAC games, which Nicole qualified through the Caribbean Championships, that's one spot.
Yeah.
And in Caribbean, which is where we look to often qualify for these things, there are only single-digit number of spots available. So it is a real challenge, but it's something that we're going to keep hammering away at. We have with Nicole and Zonique and Caitlin, we have three very strong women. Gabby Arnold is still she went to Caribbean this year. But she's starting her professional career as an educator. She's teaching high school in Indiana this year. And so, like where her cycling's going to go is that going to be her priority? Probably
Right.
not. Hopefully that. But we have a strong women's group, and of course in the young men we've Connor White had an amazing year last year when he finished in the Caribbean Championships. He was second place in the under 23 category for men.
Right.
So we have some really good guys going on, and then Matthew and Caden are still racing, and Caden's racing a very strong collegiate team. He has an active spring coming up for his collegiate road racing.
Okay.
So we think that we're looking ahead at some really exciting times, and Dominique's role is he did very well when we were in Dominican in the fall. His job was to usher Connor through the race because Connor hadn't raced at that level before, and it worked out so well. And I think that psychologically it was good for Dominique because he didn't have to have the pressure of trying to win, right?
Yeah.
And he comes seventh, which is like a huge result. So,
before we wrap up,
sorry.
go to the next commercial. Before we wrap up, my final question is this, and we go through this with every sport. Is it possible where cycling can bring in more international events to see where our athletes are?
Yes, I think we could. I think it's an expensive project to see where our athletes are. The last time we had a really big Bermuda Grand Prix was the early 2000s, and the budget was just over $100,000.
Gotcha.
So now, granted, we raise that through sponsorship, but there are other mechanisms that allow us. We don't have the breadth of athletes to do this, so we focus on like the high school age group. We try to give them the appropriate level of number of opportunities to get international racing experience, and with our top cyclists. Like we will put money towards sending them to the Pan American Road Championships because that is the next step up. We know how they do within the Caribbean, and then they have to look beyond that. And then by nature, a lot of our athletes are professionals in other fields. They have day jobs, and even for the week that Dominique's taking to go to this race in Dominican Republic, that's hours he's not getting paid at the shop. And Nicole is a police officer. Caitlin has a high level job. Nicole's got a high level job. That's their personal time to take out. So I think that what we've tried to do is create opportunities to overseas, find those the appropriate event overseas, give the rider as much support as we can, and then allow them to sort of digest that. But it's I have said to them many times, it's difficult. They need to eat the whole buffet and taste everything, right? They need, because if this one event has to make up for a level of experience that we just don't, geographically, we're not close enough for them to acquire.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Dunn, Mr. Peter Dunn. You enlightened us on what's happening for 2019. Your program itself has always been in good works and just continue to strive forward. We'd like to have you back on the side sports again throughout the year and just give us updates of what's happening. I'm sure Island Stats will cover you.
Yeah, and I'd like to see if we can get Caitlin in, talk about, as we move towards the Pan Am process, and then with these and the others, we have some good things going on.
Not a problem. I'd like to share the information. Cool. All right. We're going to take another commercial break. When we come back, we have the president of the Bermuda Netball Association, Kamal Evans, join us.
Talk Radio on Power 95 FM with host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Baisden.
And welcome back to Inside Sports Talk Radio. Joining us now at August, not the studio, at August, Kamal Evans, the president of the Bermuda Netball Association. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm pretty good.
Not exhausted, right?
No,
From a
not
weekend?
today.
She's frustrated.
She's frustrated. Not Kamal.
Frustrated.
She
On a
was
Saturday of no netball.
Exactly.
She's frustrated. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
That's due to weather conditions.
Yes.
Right. So, if that's said, will these games be made up?
Yes, they have to be made up
Right.
because they're league matches. It's not like I can say it's a tournament and then maybe we can kind of forgo it and just say, okay, the tournament's canceled. It's league matches and the league is so tight. We can't afford to not play these matches. So
That Saturday's 5 o'clock game was one everybody was waiting for.
very much so, very much so, very much so. And so for us, it's very frustrating because it takes away from our club's training on
Mhm.
Mondays because the Bernard Park is booked every day of the week for training sessions, and because make-up matches are on Mondays, one of our clubs are not able to utilize the facility for their training, so it takes away from a day of their training, and it's not something that we want. Unfortunately, it's just the way it is.
What about the junior games? Will they be made up as well?
Yes,
Okay, but they'll be made up on a Saturday.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
So with the juniors, specifically with the under 12s, which is it's more like developmental. Some of these matches can be played up. Some of the coaches will probably try and have maybe the matches during the training sessions or
Right.
things like that. Obviously, their matches only being 40 minutes. They play 10-minute quarters, so it's not as much time that
Right.
has to be put aside for them. So, we'll do our best, but we have a definitive rain date, which is always the second Monday after the cancellation date, which gives teams time to prepare,
Mhm.
to get ready for the upcoming
But
matches.
as you know, January, February is our rainy season.
Yes.
So you put aside the rain dates. in
Well, from the
place?
beginning of the year, from the
Okay.
beginning of the year when our schedule goes out, we have rain dates factored in. Obviously the club knew from the beginning. I just didn't think it was going to be this much rain. I mean, it's rained just about every single Saturday
You've
for
had
the past
8
3 weeks.
Saturdays, yeah. that
For
you've
the
missed
past
so
3
far.
weeks in a row, for sure, but we've definitely had about
Wow.
probably 5 or 6 that we've had to make up.
Oh. I know we've got news coming up in a couple of minutes, but we're going to keep
Okay.
going after 1 o'clock, so that's not a problem. The season, otherwise, that is going to par. Everything's on par.
Yeah, it's going to par. I mean, obviously, we've had a few mishaps that we've had down at the Bernard's Park courts with the vandalism and things like that. But we continue to press on, and we continue to make it known to the public that we have these issues and asking them to continue to look out for any persons that they may see that look suspicious in and around the area at any time. But other than that, I think the teams have kind of balanced out a bit. There's some competition about between at least 3 maybe to 4 teams. It's like I would say it's probably a 1, 2, 3 team race towards the end where the scores are very, very tight. And one thing that we done, which was add a little element to our leagues, which is that the winning team gets 3 points, and
Right.
if the losing team scores more than half their points, they get a point.
Oh.
So it just kind of shakes things up a bit,
Right.
and it allows for a bit more competitiveness. And sometimes it gives those teams that may not be striving to really compete this year, it gives them something to at least aspire to. At least we can say, well, we can get a point out of this, or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that's been working pretty effectively.
It's been a number of years since you had 3 teams battle as much as it is this time around.
Yeah.
So as officials, being president and the executive committee, must be a joy to see because you've been waiting for this for quite some time, haven't you?
Yes, we've definitely been waiting for this. It just means that we're heading in the right direction. That's something that we constantly speak on when it comes to our national programs that we operate, and clubs are obviously putting in the work and trying to build up these teams. And It's wonderful to see the competitiveness. People coming out and they're saying, "Oh, we're playing this team, so we're gonna really bring our A game." It's very refreshing, to say the least.
One of those teams are under 20, isn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
that will be mine.
Youthfulness on their side.
Very much so. Very much so. They definitely have. We'll probably lose them in the next 2 years or so, going off to college and university. But I think their love of the game will bring them back at any opportunity that they have, whether it be spring break, whether it be during Christmas holiday, and also, to continue to be a part of our national program. But even with losing them for a couple of years, we still have them for at least another 15 years.
Right.
That's a good thing.
Yeah. We have to break now for news. It's 12:59. Of course, we got to pay bills and things that sort. So we're going to break for news at 1 o'clock, and we'll come back here on the other side at the Argus Group Companies building with Inside Sports and Kamal Evans, the president of the Netball Association. So we'll be back probably in about another 6 or 7 minutes. Take it to you, Don.
And welcome back to Inside Sports Talk Radio. Again, joining us before we went to the news break was the president of the Bermuda Netball Association, Kamel Evans. Kamel, we're well into your season. You have international duties coming up.
Yes.
Have dates been set for your group under, what is your group, under 18?
It's under 16 that are due to travel, and I will be traveling as the assistant coach. Shaquita Simmons has been tasked with heading that group.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, in order for us to have someone to have had some experience and things like that to bounce off of each other, which is why they consummate the decision that I'll be assisting with the under 16 team. They will be traveling on March 27th to April 7th, participating in the Jean Pierre tournament. This is a staple tournament that we always tend to travel. It's an excellent tournament for players that are just trying to getting into national programs. And it's the only tournament that I know of that has the under 16 teams play. Most tournaments are under 19s, under 21s, senior tournaments. So this is a true tournament that you have to be 16 and under by January 1, 2019 in order to participate in it. The CNA, which is the Caribbean Netball Association, decided that they wanted to give youth players within our region a lot more exposure to tournaments and things like that instead of just waiting until they get to under 19s and to under 21s. So I believe I want to say this is the 19th edition of it. That it has taken place. Bermuda has participated in at the very least at least 5 or 6 of them. It could date back even further, but I believe that's it. I could be wrong. And it's been really good for us. One of the blessings that have happened is that due to financial constraints, a lot of countries are unable to send teams. Before they used to have 2 divisions. They used to have a developmental division and then they had a competitive division. And most times Bermuda participated in the developmental division. And obviously that's because we couldn't consistently go every year. You also base it on where the level of netball is in that specific country and things like that. But since which they have had it like a round robin format, where it's great, I think, because you get the balance of playing against teams that you can be really competitive and also playing against teams that are going to push you beyond your limits so that you can have a true reflection of where we are and where we need to be. So that it's a great tournament. However, the Caribbean style of netball is pretty similar across the board. You have the Caribbean, then you have the European styles, which are totally different, and then you have Bermuda, who's kind of in between the two of them, that's establishing our own style. So it'll be interesting to see where this group of players are going to do. The last group that went down fairly well.
I was just going to say, you were part of the coaching staff of the last group.
Yeah.
That they then changed the ruling where they had the round robin.
Yes.
So you got first-hand knowledge of just what that level is like.
Yes.
And you're able to pass that on. But I don't think young people understand when they're being told.
Yes.
It's when they actually get into it, they realize, hey, we're not at the level we thought we were.
Yes.
So as an experienced person and coach, and how are you guys working on that mental part? Because that's going to be the key. Physically, they're going to be able to do what they can. It's that mental, because when people start falling behind, they start to shut off. They start to do things that are out of the norm.
Well, for me, one thing, we constantly speak on it, right? I mean, we've shown them footage. We continue to show them footage, and it's just something we constantly speak on. So in hopes that when it does happen, they say, wow, this is exactly what they were talking about. And then they can hopefully switch gears. That is the hope. We can't prepare them any better than just giving them that knowledge and giving them some visual aspects, and also getting that last group of under 16 players, they train against them. So that last group of under 16 players plays against the under 16 current team now every Thursday evening in training matches. And I encourage those young ladies to just let them know what they're going to be up against. to also give them a run for their money. Don't make anything easy for them. So it's my hope that it's not just coming from a coach's perspective, that it's coming from a player's perspective as well, so that it can give them a little bit more of an understanding. But realistically, so it's not until you're actually in it that you can really and truly see what it was all about. But it's not going to be for a lack of being told.
Right. The last time we talked, you were talking about the possibility of a senior event. Have we moved any closer to that becoming fruition?
Well, we have committed in writing. It's in USA, and it's going to be like a quad series. So we are just waiting for them to get back to us, because I know they have put it out to a few people, and they just wanted the first 4 that confirmed, obviously 3 that confirmed, with the 4th being USA. So we're just waiting on that information, but tentatively, we are scheduled to go in August to Florida to participate in a quad series.
Okay. And have you started looking at possible players of any nature? Because if we continue to wait and then it's thrust upon us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we are totally submerged in the under 16s right now, with us only having approximately 6 weeks left before we depart. The senior national coach, which is Tony Michette, is constantly looking at players, observing players. Obviously, we have a nucleus of players that will be put in that pool, and we are in the process of getting ready to invite them and start back up our senior training that has kind of fallen off a little bit. However, the under 21 group is just recently off of having participated in the summer. So it is my belief that a good bit of those players will be forming a nucleus and a part of the senior national team. Because in all fairness, I think that for Bermuda Netball to continuously move forward, we really have to focus on our youth, and this is what we are doing. We're trying to get them younger and younger and younger, and exposing them to competition at a higher level, and letting them see the opportunities that they can get from it. So that's the area where we need to go when it comes to the seniors as well. Just inject some seniority in and around them in specific areas to just help pull them along, and I think that that will benefit us in the long run.
Okay. Anything else you want to discuss before we wrap up?
Well, I just want to proudly announce our under 16 team. We have selected those that will be attending, and I think it's a big deal. I really think it's a big deal. These young ladies have been training since last year, so they have been training for about a year on and off, and have been in the program for well over a year, assisted with fundraising initiatives for the senior team, for the under 21 team, and now, for themselves. So they've completely committed and submerged themselves. So with that being said, our team captain will be Selah Tuzo. Obviously, definitely a true choice for a captain, having already been to the under 16s as the youngest player at the under 16 level. And she's still young enough to participate probably again next year. And we have Casey McGowan and Coraya Simmons, who will co-captain the team. Josiah Dyer, Jade Johnson, Amara Richards, Elisha Smith, Azriel Basin, Amaya Butterfield, Keziah Gibbons, Alexi Smith, Nizea Barkley, and Jessie DeBraga. So those are the young ladies that have been successfully accepted and chosen to represent Bermuda at the under 16 tournament, the GMPR tournament. And I just hope that we continue to do well and we continue to grow the sport. AFNA, like I said, who is the region that we are in, are doing a lot of work in trying to put more youth tournaments out there. They're doing high school tournaments. They're doing a lot of things. And I can say for once that Bermuda is actually being considered, really being considered, because they had the first high school tournament this past year, but the rules did not allow for Bermuda.
Right.
Well, the rules didn't allow for Bermuda because technically they all had to come from one school. Nice. Bermuda being so small, we don't really have one school that can really say they're going to go and be competitive like that. So the rules have now been adjusted. Whereas as long as they are in school, we can do a combined Bermuda high school team that can participate in these tournaments.
Right.
So yeah, we're looking forward to continue with building up our junior programs.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
we'll
you.
have you on 2 weeks from now. Again, we're telling our audience that you come on every 2 weeks, give us updates of netball, and we want to continue to do that every 2 weeks with you.
Yes, thank you.
It's a pleasure having you on board, and we always tell you can bring some of your players as well to take some of the pressure off.
Don't worry, they're coming.
All right. We're going to take a commercial break, and when we come back, we will be speaking with Shakira Warner. She's a population health specialist here at the Argus Group. Just give us a couple minutes, and we'll be back after this.
Inside Sports. Inside Sports Talk Radio on Power 95 FM with host Ian Rollins and co-host Earl Beeston.
And welcome back to Inside Sports Talk Radio. We're live here from the Argus Group in Hamilton, along with Earl Baston, and we have a special guest in the studio at the Argus Group, Shakira Warner, population health specialist from the Argus Group. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Let me know if I'm...
No, you're fine. You're fine. You've got two special guests with you.
Yes, extra special guests. So we have with us Miss Kellyanne Smith, head of Global HR and Organizational Development for the Argus Group Global. And we also have Mr. Wayne Swan, who is... Help me out here.
Claims engineer.
Claims engineer, and also a member of the Argus Wellness Committee.
Right. So explain to us the Argus Wellness Committee again regarding your role, and then we can talk to your guests with you.
Okay, so as we discussed last week, my role as population health specialist is to assist our clients with getting their health and wellness programs off the ground, as well as making them aware of some of the free resources that come along with their health plan. So internally, as you know, Argus employees are also Argus clients, so we like to treat them as such. And I work with our internal wellness committee to bridge the gap between the resources that we offer to our external clients and our internal clients, Argus employees.
Wayne, you care to share a bit of it?
Absolutely. Good afternoon again to you and to the listening audience. From the wellness side of it, we here at Argus, wellness has always been something that we really target. I've been at Argus for 16 years now, and I've calculated it's been between 10 or 12 of those years I've actually been a part of the wellness initiative here. So I've seen a lot, but for me, it's been such an integral part in, as Shakira said, bridging the gap between not only being a premier healthcare provider, but also looking within as it relates to the health of Argus and its staff. And from a wellness committee standpoint, being able to come up with ways, initiatives, campaigns that's going to spark not only interest, but make it relative to the health of Argus. And one of those things, I'm sure you've heard that how we gauge what to do, what to come up with, is through a health risk assessment that really it's putting a pulse on the health of Argus in regards to what's happening with our staff. And so from that, those results, the wellness committee then look at it and say, okay, look like we're a little bit too stressed here, so we need to figure out something, put something in place, whether it be launch and learn, whether it be whatever it is, to be able to combat and give help and support in those areas. So we do that, and that's how we come up with our campaigns. So
You mentioned that you've been in the program for 10 to 12 years.
At least.
What are the benefits that you've seen for yourself personally?
Well, tremendous, because I know I look like I've been in the gym forever.
I like that.
I don't know why you laugh so loud.
I'm agreeing with you.
But for me, I've always thought I was to be a bit on the athletic side. I've done a few things, but I was never a gym buff. I couldn't stand the gym. However, I realized the more mature I was getting, the more conscious I had to be about my health, and not only exercising. The other part component with it, which is I missed totally, was the nutritional side of it. So here, what allowed me to get more involved in it, because I saw the need to not only to get healthy, but remain healthy, and have a change of my mindset and have a healthy lifestyle. And so with the initiatives that was already in place and then we improved upon it, was a nice fit for me, because I figured, there was others just like me who at various different stages of their health goals. And this was a way of being able to ease back into and develop some better habits for my health. And then there were others in the company that had the same mindset, and just continued to grow and grow from there.
Yeah.
Well, the Wellness Committee, they're a great committee, amazing committee. And at Argus, we're really, really committed to taking care of our staff. When we think about the mantra, our interest is you, it really is our interest is you. So in terms of our staff, we look at not only physical, but socially, emotionally, and mentally. So these are just encouraging and empowering them to make healthy choices and healthy decisions. So we put our money where our mouth is. And so even when we look at our benefits, we look at specific benefits that actually is focused towards encouraging more healthier behaviors. So just an example, we have a wellness subsidy. So for any employee who is looking to join a gym or anything to do with health-related or health choices, we do 50% initiation fee for the cost, as well as up to $500 a year.
Wow.
So we really are committed. Yes, we have a full gym, of course, on our property, as well as we do various lunch and learns in terms of health-related and physical activity. So we also believe in a return on investment. So it's important that our strategy is aligned with the overall Argus strategy, and that is preventative instead of being reactive. So in all the things that we do is sometimes making choices, healthy choices, it's very tough. And so we recognize by having a team dynamic and working with the staff that can encourage you and support you, and we're all in this together. And then when you see the return on the investment, it affects all of us because our healthcare costs would be lowered at Argus.
Definitely.
So that's important in terms of the return on the investment.
When trying to convince people outside of the company that it's the right thing to do, do you gauge what you're doing inside as a stepping stone to sort of encourage those on the outside to do?
Oh, absolutely. Because we have such a strong wellness committee, we have a lot of best practice. So we have a lot of ideas and examples and campaigns that we have been proven to be successful. So for a new company who is just joining and wants to figure out what do I do for a wellness committee, we actually can provide them real examples and real encouragement and also testimonials from our staff on the benefits. So hopefully that will be a good influencer for organizations to definitely see the benefits of it.
When coming up with ideas, is it a staff involvement as well, or is it just the committee's involvement?
That's a perfect. I like to do that. That's a perfect question. So every decision that we make is intentional. And very strategic. And we have a lot of feedback loops in terms of what are we going to do. So at the beginning of the year, the Wellness Committee talks about what's the strategy. So what are we, some of the data that we use is we have employee feedback, or employee engagement survey, we do an HRA, health risk assessment, and then we just survey our staff and say, what are some of the needs that we can accommodate? What are some of the things that we can service in this community? So we take feedback very, very seriously, and then we take that and we work with it. So for instance, last year, stress in the workplace. So we recognized that there was a lot of stress, the pace of the workload. So we decided to do, so why don't we get people to come in and do massages? Why don't we do Tai Chi? Why don't we do some healthy teas? So the staff you've taken our feedback and you've done something with it. So that's important. I'm not sure if anybody else in the committee wanted to share with that.
Yeah, for sure. And we recognize that from an external client perspective, we can't just take the Argus model and plop it into another company. But what we can do is provide or act as a sounding board. So say, hey, we've tried this. Do you think this could work here? And recognizing that the people within that company, they know their staff best. So they know what they're going to be receptive to, things maybe they want to shy away from. So we do a lot of trial and error here. We see if things work, and then we are always open to share our experiences.
Last week on the show, we were talking about this similar thing about fitness, and it's amazing. When we were in high school, we always said that from high school to university, you do your fitness. Whoever thought 20 years later, you're still doing fitness. Times have changed. But it's more so the importance of it, not just doing fitness, but the importance of it. And your program you got together, or putting together, is speaking volumes of it. What's the you did say your response from the staff has been great, and you've been doing this for a number of years. Have people come on board and say, look, I want to do this for life, this is really helping me? Anyone can answer that?
I think that's probably the ultimate goal of our wellness programs is not short-lived. It's all about sustainability. So we are looking for not just a short-term fix, but very long-term. And it's really exciting to hear that even after reboot finishes, that people still continue with their health choices and still continue with walking clubs and still continue with, we shouldn't be eating this. So there are small things that we do, even in terms of sodas in the workplace and having more healthier snacks. So we're trying not to do short-term fixes, but definitely long-term sustainable choices.
Let's take a commercial break. Can we come back? We'll speak more from these lovely people here at the Argus Group. We'll be back after this. And welcome back. We're here live at the August Group. There's some lovely people. Shakir, your job's not an easy task, and you got a great team that's putting this together. What's the challenges that you deal with weekly or monthly?
In terms of challenges, I mean, I think if you look at a very basic level, health behaviors are not rational.
Yeah.
And that's to put it simply. I mean,
Right.
you know, we all know that, you know, we should be moving more, eating a little bit better, but, you know, you don't get, a lot of times you don't get instant gratification from that. We know it's going to have a benefit in the long term. Sometimes people get it. You know, people say, okay, yeah, I know that I need to do X, Y, and Z to be healthy in the longer term. However, you know, when you're talking about individuals who may have significant challenges, whether that's related to their health or their work life or life outside of work, it becomes a little bit more challenging to engage those individuals.
Sure.
And that takes, you know, you have to try to reach them and meet them where they are. So I think those tend to be kind of the more challenging things. However, when you do make an impact with those individuals, that it makes the job so worth it.
Cool. The challenge is that average person wants a quick fix. They want something within 2 months, 3 months, right? Let's be real. That don't work. You got to think long term, and not only long term, but the process that you get your body there and it can stay off. Like, you got to tweak your body like every 3 months to 6 months. Because if you continue to stay on this plan for 6 months, well, no, you're not going to get results. And that's why I think people don't understand that you got to tweak it for your nutrition plan and your training program.
Absolutely.
Do you run against those challenges?
I often say that I can be heard saying, not only in the around the planning table or the wellness committee, that our interest is you. That's August.
Yeah.
But I say, help me to help you. I say that because we can provide, and we have provided some interesting campaigns and strategies and all of that. We've listened to the surveys of what staff want. We, to the best of our ability, provide those things.
Right.
And there are some that still don't do that, the uptake, or find a reason why they can't do it. And I often said, help me to help you. In other words, if you really, really want to make a change, it has to start in the head first, because you have to have a mindset change in order for that to take place. And then once that takes place, also know that it's going to take time, quite rightly as you said. It's just not going to happen overnight. But if it's your goal, if it's you want to invest in, we're here to support you in that and help you along the way. And if you stick with it and stay with it, you will see the changes that you desire.
I just wanted to say we offer these great programs for staff, but I think what's even more powerful is the power of a testimony. And so during our town hall meetings, some of our staff have been successful, whether it be the diabetes reversal program or they've lost weight. For them to get up and have the courage in front of all of their peers to say, I took advantage of this program, and this is how it benefited me. I feel that we can save somebody else in the audience who may have been cautious and say, oh, no, this is not for me. So the power of a testimony, you'd be amazed at what it can do for the people in the room.
Obviously, this program's been around for a while, but at the beginning, did you see resistance? Were there those opportunities where you had to kind of convince people to don't tell me you were the one.
Yes.
Yes, in both regards. Yes, I was one.
Yes, in both regards, because real quickly, the way we do things now, in terms of how we approach the holisticness of wellness, the whole body, everything, is quite different what we looked at it before, because if there was a mindset that fitness is get in the gym, run up and down, work out a sweat, and that's it. But we have so metamorphosized or transcended that, and to what we are today is nowhere near what we look like there. But also the things that haven't changed is the people. So getting them to do that transition, and going back to what I said, is that if it's a goal of yours, if it's important to you, then it can happen. But if it's not, then it's not going to be sustainable. And this is something that from the wellness committee, we just don't want to do campaigns and do things just for the sake of having it or doing it. We want to be able to support our peers in their health goals, but from a holistic standpoint. And it's from walking the stairs instead of taking the elevators or 6 or 7 flights, or doing for a walk. It's just a whole holistic approach in what we take, and we find, and because we're not one-dimensional, we've seen that several more people who otherwise wouldn't get into the wellness thing because they thought they had to be of a certain health level.
Right.
We're happy with this new program. Reboot has shifted that mindset, because I'm in the gym besides others who are much further along than me, and still getting the same impact and results, even though I'm not at their level. So that's what this whole thing has been so amazing.
I would also recommend to any company that is interested in a wellness program, to Shakira's point, it is about knowing the staff and the people. Now, everyone loves an incentive. And everyone loves prizes. So there used to be at our wellness, was everything we had to do had to be a prize associated with it. But now I think that we've actually matured, and so you have to take baby steps when you're looking at that. And so it's just really, really interesting now that we don't even really have to do a lot of incentives.
True.
The other thing with Argus is we're highly competitive. So if there's anything to do with competition, then Argus is going to be on board. So I think it's just knowing the DNA of your staff.
There's always people that want to do things but kind of embarrassed to do things. How do you guys as a committee hold someone's hand to ensure them that they can possibly do it and be comfortable doing it, because that's not the norm for them?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of answers to that question. The first thing is the personalities, having the right personalities. You don't want to put someone who wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable in that environment with someone who is going to be like a complete drill sergeant. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience. So that's for one, for like a program facilitator aspect. And then it's also a lot of work that we've done internally to make sure that our staff, our coworkers really do feel cared about. Like, it's not just, oh, how are you today? And then you get a generic fine answer back, but know that we really care about the person sitting next to us. So, if they are a little bit timid, it's like, okay, hey, try this. Or, I'm going down to do this particular program or lunch and learn. Why don't you come with me and try it out? Sometimes, if we try a new initiative, some people just like to hang back and see how it's going to go. If it's a flop, then, likely they're not going to try it the next time. But if it's really successful, like Reboot, and it builds up a buzz, and we've been kind of told that Reboot's become kind of like a cult within August. So, like, just even from an example of just our participation numbers, last year in January was our first time launching the program. We had 50 people join. In September, and a waiting list. And in September, we had 60 participants, but 20 of those participants were new people. So new people coming into the program. So these are people who kind of were a little bit curious to see what it was about. Also people who needed a little bit of extra encouragement from their coworkers.
I'd like to interject just for a minute there.
Sure.
That's so true, because I said the Wellness Committee, I guess the rest of the staff's going to hear this now, that we purposely made it our point to target people that first-timers, to get them on board, and not only target them, but support them along the way. If it's holding their hand, so let it be. But as long as they are committed, then we're committed, and to walk with them. So there's people on this new program that have never been on any of the programs, but they are getting the results. They feel the camaraderie and they feel the support. And so I knew it works from that standpoint, because if I were on the other side, I certainly would want to know that there's somebody holding me accountable, or walking with me, or running with me, or walking with me because I can't run, or whatever the case is, to make me to allow me to get where I need to go and have that support. So Shakira's quite right. It's the culture now is that it's one for all and all for one, and it doesn't matter where you are. Excuse me, on the spectrum. On the spectrum.
Right. You talk about your Argus is very competitive. So what is the division competitiveness like?
Oh, it is wow.
Or department.
It doesn't matter. I real quick. Argus is very competitive from standpoint, but also our HR department, learning and development, they come up with some creative ways in which for us to have fun.
Okay.
So one year, last year, we had this paper plane building competition. Now, paper plane building competition. So everybody built their plane, and we went on the back in the park lot and flew the plane.
High school, gotcha.
Yeah. So whoever flew the furthest. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, competition. It was fun. Yeah, but it was competition.
I think one of my favorite competitions. This was a global competition that we did last year, and we had to create a video living the Argus brand. Oh my goodness! And I'm not just saying this because I'm a little bit biased, but I do want to give a shout out to Group Insurance. We did a remix of Justin Bieber and DJ Khaled's "You're the One," and it was called "Argus is the One." And it was really good. It was a great music video.
Now, when you were introduced as head of HR Global.
Correct.
Okay. So, although you're doing this model in Bermuda, is Argus globally taking up the mantra?
We are definitely trying our best to do that. So all the benefits that are in Bermuda, we want to make sure that we cascade them across to the jurisdictions in which we operate. So we are working with Shakira and actually trying to launch that.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that every employee has the same experience.
Okay. So would that mean you guys somehow going to places to introduce it, or working with other people in other jurisdictions to do it?
We would probably identify a wellness champion in each of these jurisdictions and then get them to liaise with Shakira.
Okay.
Yeah. But we actually, maybe unless Shakira, you want to talk about the online.
Yeah, so, we have all of this technology at our fingertips. So obviously the first kind of way to bridge the gap between our global offices in Malta and Gibraltar is to give them access to our digital wellness resources. So we've got our Get Up and Thrive program, which is powered by Virgin Pulse. It's a mobile-first type of app where you can track your activity and get rewarded for that. Also, we've got our health risk assessment tool, which is a questionnaire that asks questions not only about your physical well-being, but about your habits, about your work-life balance, hours of work that you do in a week, your role as a carer, so all the things that kind of contribute to your physical and also your financial well-being. And then also we've got our digital wellness library called our Healthy Learn Library, which gives health and wellness tips, resources. If you are wondering what questions you need to ask when you go to the doctor, it's got a nice little question list for you. There's some really good tools there as well. So giving our global employees access to those resources is a good first step. And then, of course, we've got things like Skype and things like that, so we can actually have some real FaceTime with them to plan out some events.
Are you going to speak to other local companies like Bermuda Broadcasting Company?
We can definitely speak to Bermuda Broadcasting Company. And actually, the reason why I'm wearing my Argus shirt is because this morning, Nurse Karima Stevens, our case manager, and I were actually at the Hamilton Marketplace doing a mini health screening for their staff. So also just wanted to give a shout out to their staff. They were great this morning, and we're going to be there again this afternoon, and then some of their other sites into next week.
All right. I'll hook you up to Mr. Chapman. He likes all that stuff. It's all good. Any final comments before we wrap up, ladies and gentlemen?
No, not really.
HR is out of talk. HR.
I guess the point is that, it's been a journey. There's going to, doing workplace wellness, there's going to be trial, there's going to be error, there are going to be some successes, there are going to be some flops. But we capitalize on the successes, and it's about having, a team of dedicated and passionate people, having support from the executive team, and then having, an environment where people are encouraged to be engaged.
Sure. So you guys present the team for May 24th?
Well,
real team.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah, you're right.
He needs support.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You leave it as that.
Listen, when the people out at war, there's always someone who's going to be left behind.
Right. Somebody's got to tell the story.
Somebody has to tell the story. I just want to say real quick that for the listening audience, by no means of a stretch of imagination that we are saying that Argus has got it all together in this area. But I would like to say that we are certainly on the journey of making creating opportunities for our peers and us and the staff here, having a more holistic approach to their health, healthier lifestyle, and it's also open to you should you just take the opportunity to take a more healthier interest in your own health.
Have to. Sure. Okay.
Well, I think that's all.
That's it?
That's all.
You sure now?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take a commercial break, and we come back. We'll wrap it up from the Argus Group.
Inside and co-host Earl Beeston.
And thank you. Welcome back to the Argus Group in Hamilton. We're live again. We have Shakir Warner, who's just going to give us some final comments on some topics that she'd like to share with us that we're going to discuss next month. Shakir?
Yes, so March is Nutrition Month every year, and we will be focusing our sessions on things related to nutrition, kind of debunking some myths, how to read labels, and we'll have some special guests as well.
With that said, then we can come back here on a Monday and do a live report again, like say the 18th of March or something of that sort, huh?
I'll have to run that by my people.
Okay, I'm sure they wouldn't mind.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us.
Okay.
Don Bassett, that's it. We're going to wrap up here from the August Group. We're going to throw it back to you in the studio. We'll be back in the station later on. Thank you very much for joining us today on Inside Sports Talk Radio on Power 95, live from the August Group. I'm Ian Rollins, along with Earl Basden and Mr. Austin Chapman and Don Bassett at the station. We thank you for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you for joining Inside Sports.